So, show number 50. It's February 27th, 2019. And thanks for hanging out with us in the garage. As always, Scott Zielinski,
How's it going?
Walt Campos.
Going on. Happy 50th.
So, yeah, 50 is a big number. It's a milestone number. So, first, I have to thank you guys for sticking with it this long. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of dedication to have to do this. So I wanted to do something, we retrospective, look back at the stuff. I want to talk about, about the show. I want to spend a little while slobbering each other's knobs here. I do wish Thaddeus was with us. Thaddeus has put a lot of work into getting it to this point too. So I do wish he was with us, and I actually have one of his feedback on a lot of these answers. So maybe we can get him to do a supplemental Thaddeus piece to put up. So that'd be good. So I want to ask a couple of questions, and I'm not going to put it in any kind of order. Whichever one you call Thaddeus, Scotty, Walt. Now you. I'm just going to throw the question out there, and whichever guys want to jump in first, you had, but give some kind of a signal or something. I guess I don't know. But first thing I want to know. Tell me something about the show that surprised you, something you weren't expecting.
I think, let me give you the high sign here. I think initially when we started the show, we didn't know the direction we were going. We were kind of trying different things and seeing what kind of stuck. And then for a while, we caught on to the fact that, if we do some news stories, even if they're kind of lighthearted or funny news stories, then we can use that to springboard conversations. And what was surprising to me initially was that the kind of conversations that we could have by, talking about some dude getting his knob bitten off by a snake or something, and that would spring into some tangent conversation that we'd have, and we'd go into some weird, kind of like pocket universe of where that started, but it ended up becoming, a much more intellectual conversation. So from there, what became surprising is that we took that and I think we all kind of got into this pacing where we all understand each other and can kind of talk about, these more intellectual things and carry a good conversation and and have fun with it at the same time and joke around at the same time.
Scotty, what are you thinking about?
I'm thinking he pretty much summed it up exactly. That's the way it was. When I initially thought of it, and we had talked about it a little bit, John, and it was I really thought it was going to sort of revolve around those stories and not just those stories. And even though you might find funny stuff off of that, it would only very minorly sort of zigzag around what we were talking about. We ended up having some offshoots that were downright, something you'd normally do sitting around smoking doobies with each other, going down some crazy paths. And we were doing it with ease because I haven't met Walter Thaddeus in person. So not really actually knowing them, being able to just sort of fall into place like that. That was easier done than I thought it was going to be. And the different tangents we took were a delightful surprise.
Yeah, see, you bring up that you guys didn't know each other. I know all of you, and I kind of picked each one of you for specific reasons, and I'll get back into that a little bit later on one of the other things. But for me, what I was surprised about. One, it eventually, we set out to basically and we weren't sure about it at the time, but we had the idea in mind to set out exactly like you would hanging out with your friends and having some beers in the garage, the garage, hanging out at the bar, whatever else. And we actually turned out to be exactly that. So that was, that's a nice thing. But what really surprised me is how quickly we went from it's on the back end of things for me. How quickly we went to having a show that I don't edit at all. I don't edit the show at all. I mean, like we started for about 2 months. We were doing stuff that technically was wrong, or we were talking over each other, and there was like a bunch of shit going on that we couldn't even use. So then, for the next 6 weeks after that, had to cut them up, but it got less and less and less. By basically our seventh show, I have almost the only time I ever have to edit anything is when you have so many technical issues that you just can't hear it, and it just you can't listen to it. So I have to cut out the stuff that are that the feed gives us a problem. But our show, with the way that we interact and the way that we just the natural cadence that we fell into, so that at the point I don't have to edit any of it, and it just became that easy to do what we were trying to do. And when you listen to it on the audio, now our video has to catch up. The video quality has to catch up for that parts of it. But the audio files are spot on. They're as good as you're going to hear from anybody. So that's the fact that we did it so quickly, so easily, where we don't have to chop it up and do all that work, and it just naturally works as a great show. That really that wasn't something I was expecting. I thought it was going to be a lot harder to do what we're doing.
That's good. It's less for you because you're the one who ends up doing that. I mean, basically, as the show director, you become the editor, and so.
Yeah, well, it's because it's a lot of work to edit the videos and clip them out. We wouldn't be able to have 50 shows because I wouldn't have time to do it. It would take us. We would have to do every other week for me to do it if it had to be gotten to be ridiculous.
Wow.
So it winds up working out in our favor. And it does keep some hair in my head.
Yeah, and that editing thing, I thought to myself, that's it. You put in some software and do this, that, and the other, and you're good to go. And then I got my drone, and I flew my first drone and wanted to try and edit some video and sound and stuff, and it was like hours. And you only do a little bit in that amount of time, and you're like, all that time and work, and really all I did was snip this bit here, cut the front on off of here, and put music in it.
Yeah, people have no idea how hard editing is. That's why, they say in film, editing is everything, and that's why the best editing is it's a big deal, and they don't make enough of a big deal of it because you really don't know until you do it.
Right.
It's a pain in the ass.
That's kind of even worse in the actual film industry because when you look at because they'll film out of order and they've got crap in there that they've done 30 times, right?
Yep.
And then you got to figure out what fits and how the continuity works and all that crap.
Although I'll say this about that though, as much as a pain in the ass as that must be, because I did that with Walt and I played softball together for a long time. I taped every one of our games one summer, right? And Walt had a camera. We had 5 different camera angles. Right now, I have video of the entire season at 5 different camera angles that you had to go through them all just to get out the clips, and it's the same plays in 5 different angles. It's fucking different, and then I would have to match them up. It was holy shit.
And I think you only edited one.
I think I have 2. I think I have 2 because it took so long.
Played 50 games or something.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's I would like to one day even just clip out the scenes of me so I could put a video together for my kids to see that I played. So when I'm fat, they're like, "Oh, Daddy, tell me, oh yeah, you used to run bullshit, Dad. Look at you, you're slob." I could show the video. Yeah, look at me. I caught that ball in right field, fucker. But I did that. I ran across the field and caught the ball from left field to right field and caught the fly ball. I did that. That did not make people happy on the other team. But it's such a pain in the ass to even just do that. So editing is, but I'll tell you this: it's the tedious stuff with web design when you got to make the colors right. You got to keep checking on the web to see if it came out the way that you think it's going to come out. You got to keep checking and nope, that's not it, and tweak it another 4 pixels. It's a fucking pain in the ass. So it's kind of the same as that.
Yeah.
Is Scotty frozen, or is he just making a face that long?
He's frozen.
Yep.
I was gonna say, we have some great plays that ended up that we ended up posting on Facebook. Some crazy umpire calls and
some of that stuff is good.
Some of that stuff, yeah, exactly. You know, and that one with John Robinson,
Yeah.
where he's yelling at the ump. I'm so glad, like that was off of my camera.
Oh, was it?
I was out on the field, and I just angled that camera just to catch that play at home plate. So that was great. Maybe you should put that up on the website just so people can get an inkling of what happened and what we're talking about. But
Yeah,
that
that's
was
probably a good idea.
great.
Yeah, because some of the stuff you like, especially we were talking about stuff in the show, you know, like in like where it is a example of what we're talking about and what we're doing. I'm trying to get Scotty back in the show. Scotty fell off in the show, so you know, it's kind of hard to do the concept that we're working on tonight if we only have you and me.
So you know, as usual, we have some technical issues, but
yeah, it happens. You know, that's the disadvantage of when you're not sitting in the same room. And I don't know that it would change if you had top of the line the equipment because it's not relying on me.
yeah. I'm supposed to.
Well, all right.
I'm supposed to. Let's see what happens. I'm supposed to be in Florida in May.
Oh, yeah?
Over the weekend, over that first weekend, and you know, maybe we should do a show, you know, like a special weekend show or something, because we'll be in the same place at the same time. So,
yeah, that might be able to work. We might be able to do that.
You know,
yeah, find out the details. That'd be cool.
Yeah. I'm supposed to.
There he is. He's back.
Hey, there he is. I'm supposed to fly into Orlando, but I can you know, I can shoot out towards you.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, don't do anything that's fucking crazy.
That's
you
like
know,
2 hours, right, or something like that.
it's 4 hours.
4 hours.
I'm actually going up there. Yeah, I'm actually going up there on Friday. Yeah, man, fucking. You know, I'm all about you. I would love to see it, but I'm all about not breaking your balls. You know what I mean? Don't do anything that's more of a pain in the ass than it's worth.
Well, I guess we'll see what happens, but yeah, you know, it would be cool, you know, because I technically haven't seen you since. It's hard to believe, but since 2000.
5 years,
I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I've actually seen Scotty. I've actually seen Scotty more than I've seen you in the last 5 years.
That's crazy. Yeah, you guys met up once, right?
Yeah, when your boy was just an infant.
Yeah,
because we were at that, what was it, Cracker Barrel? I think we had breakfast.
Nice.
And I think we had seen you the night before or something like that.
Yeah, I just drove by there yesterday or Sunday.
Oh, nice.
Back from lunch. Yeah.
I think I still have leftovers from that.
Huh. That's probably horrible.
Terrible joke.
So of all the shit that we talked about, right? What are your favorite bits? Like the stuff that the stories, the conversations we had. What are the ones you like the most? What would you enjoy most?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, that's hard because my kids ask me that. What's your favorite song? It's like, I don't know. Depends on my mood. Depends on the category, right? Depends on the day of the week.
Okay, but the ones that stick out the most to you, like the fucking ones that crack you up, where you're just sitting there and you're random, like, might think about it, it cracks you up.
I think it's the stuff where we end up coming out with like almost like a branded thing from it, like the
t-shirts.
Yeah. Like what was the one with the cave? Like Nutsack Cave or something. I can't remember now. But stuff like that. You know what I'm talking about, right?
What was that? Oh, there was one, the cock mine.
Yeah, that's what it was.
The cock mine. I always forgot about the cock mine.
Yeah. It's
like
that.
Because like what cracks me up still is the one where New York ships their fucking their people's turds, the shit that New York City cleans out of their sewer system. They ship on trains down to Alabama and throw it down mine shafts in Alabama. To me, that's fucking crazy. That story kills me.
Like, and somebody came up with that, and there's like contracts and paperwork and shit that people signed.
Yeah, it's all legal. It's official. This was city planning. Somebody somebody in charge thought that was the best thing.
Right.
To do.
New York was like, we don't want this shit here. And Alabama's like, well, we'll take it.
And that's the worst part. Somebody in Alabama said, yeah, we'll do it.
Oh my God.
Oh,
yes.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
You know, the one
New York can't argue nowadays because there's so many things that are being done wrong here that you have no idea. And,
okay.
And it's just.
But we're not going to sing sad songs tonight.
No, we're not. You know, people are leaving in droves. That's all I'm saying. But anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, now that we know why, they know a good place to shit.
They got to go to Alabama. Stay out of the middleman.
I mean, speaking of that, one of my favorites is still No Human Fouling. You know that's an
early one too. That's an early.
That's one of the early ones. That's like the first T-shirt show. No Human Fouling. I mean, just the fact that you had so many people shitting on the sidewalk that this town felt they need to appropriate funds to get signs that showed of people shitting, and they had to post these signs up like official signs. No human fouling. Like you see a fucking no running over children in the crosswalk.
I was in St. Martin in 2017, and there's a famous airport there. I actually landed in that airport where where people hang out on the fence waiting for the jets when they take off to the propulsion from the jet. So because they're right off the beach right there, so they're waiting for the jet to take off, and then as soon as the engines basically the engines blow these people off the fence and onto the sand. So unfortunately, one woman died because she got blown off into an area where there were rocks, and so there's this sign when I got there. There's this sign there that basically says you cannot, at your own peril, be careful because the planes are gonna, basically knock you 20 feet in the air, and you gotta Google this. Everybody's got to Google this because it's the funniest thing ever. Because they literally show a jet, okay, and then they literally show like a picture of a jet and the jet engine basically blowing a stick figure in the air, like blowing it sideways. And it's the funniest thing ever. And I'm like, even if you don't read, you know exactly what that means right there.
Right. But see that, think about that though. I mean, because I'm a man of science, right? And I think to myself, survival of the fittest. Oh, and exactly. So I think when people look at different things, we're too clean, we're doing this and that and the other. It very well could be signs that is the detriment to the survival of humanity because it's too many stupid fucking people.
It's true. We're not cutting down the surplus population, and they're breeding a lot faster than the rest of us.
Right. Normally, these guys would be going out there and like sitting on a fence and getting killed by a freaking giant jet engine. And now they're being warned not to because they didn't have that innate sense that they pass on to their children.
Generally, I'm of the opinion that if you get yourself killed by jet wash standing on the ground, you probably fucking deserve it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, people, the life, everybody's got to live. And it's like, no, this world don't work that way.
Right. That's no. The only thing you have a right to is to go fuck yourself. That's about it.
Fucking yourself is a human right.
It definitely is. It's the only one you really got. That's like my fucking like my son. He walks around and fucking grab his cock and balls, right? And I'm an asshole because I got him. That's what he calls him, his cock and balls, right? I got my cock and balls, right? And I tell him, enjoy it, buddy. It's the only thing that's ever really yours.
And I just tell my son, like, it's you can do that, just not in front of your mom.
There it is.
You know
That's
what?
the sign.
Yep, there it is.
That shit is real.
Yep, yep.
That's awesome.
That's exactly what I saw. I was like, oh shit. I know exactly what that means.
You know, it's funny though. There's a lot of like I like the T-shirt shows. You know, there's a lot of things like like Captain Smack. I hope we got a lot of miles out of. But the
lettuce.
What happened?
Sherbet lettuce.
Sherbet lettuce. A lot of people are watching that.
Oh, really?
A lot of people tuned into sherbet lettuce.
Oh wow! I got to rewatch that and see what nuggets came out of that. Why people like it.
The cock mine. I mean, the cock mine was a classic. I was crying. We were crying that episode. You know, Jamie Foxx's penis did well, but I always think about the other one, the fucking guy with the giant hooked cock that smelled like piss.
Some of these I would on.
Oh, you weren't on that one, man. I would have been all over that shit if it didn't stink like piss.
Oh my god.
You know, but like, even, like I said earlier, like even like when we talk about a story and then that shoots into something else, and then we stay on that for a little while, and you know we go someplace where you're not expecting,
All right.
and I think that's some of the more interesting things also.
Yeah.
You know, like even if we talk about like one day we were talking about Star Trek, right? And who hasn't talked about Star Trek, right?
Right.
But we went into this place where not many people go, which is like when you go into a teleport, you're actually being killed right there.
Right, you're dead.
You're dead, and a copy is made on the other side,
right?
Which isn't you. It's just people think it's you.
I think they had an episode on that with Barkley, right? Because he had like transporter psychosis or something. I don't know.
Even that other you though thinks that he's you.
Right.
Right, because he's got all the memories.
Right.
The other you had, you know.
But here's the thing, though. He thinks he's got perfect memory, but he doesn't know what it really was. Right. What little tidbits are a little off.
Right.
What little synapse didn't get reconstructed correctly, and then now it was lime sherbet instead of orange sherbet.
Horrible.
And he'll never know that it wasn't without photographic record.
Right.
But if he doesn't know, though, it's not really going to hurt him either, though.
That's true, unless he goes to court and it's needed.
Well, that's true. That's true. But then he completed insanity. He can say he has transporter sickness. I don't remember it.
Right.
Yeah, he'll blame Scotty.
Oh, everybody blames me. I don't know. Scotty doesn't know.
Scotty did transport on the right. So, what do you guys want to do more of going forward? Like what? Where do I want to go? You want to do more?
Part of me, I miss the quirky news bits in some respects, and I certainly like the random shit that we go off on, and I think we talked about it, like sort of melding those two together, like literally using the little news tidbits as a springboard to go off on something else, instead of making sure we hit all of them. We can just like throw random ones out. Sometimes we might have 5 and sometimes we might only get to 2 because we're freaking talking about cock mines for most of it.
Yeah, I definitely want to get back more into that. I'm disappointed that I haven't had the time to really put together the transcripts from those other shows to put together that like this is America. This is what's out there. Like I wanted to talk about people shoot that guy, the old man that used the lawnmower as a rock shooter, to hit a 9-year-old kid. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, like real like wholesome, like local. What was it like? What was it? Odd News was like a news feed, I think, from Yahoo, and it was all the quirky stories from sometimes around the world.
Yeah, well, we were just doing it. It's true. It's not just America because we got a lot of like dog fucking in Scotland. I mean, Scotland had a bridge where dogs went to kill themselves. Like,
I remember that.
I understand why. I mean, think about all the dog rape that goes on there. I mean, there's so many dogs getting raped in Scotland that there's a bridge where they kill themselves.
Suicide dogs.
It's fucking crazy. I don't know what's going on. What's in the haggis? Horrible. But I would like to get more into that stuff because like the I like to have the interesting conversations, but it's more fun to do the other stuff, and I want it to be more like you're hanging out at the bar or fucking hanging out in the garage and you just shoot the shit. It's not all serious, and some of it's intellectual like that. We always get into the intellectual parts of it anyway, even off of those fucking crazy things. So give it a little levity.
Sure.
Another thing though I would like to do, and this is something we kind of have to do at some point, I would like to transition into not so much interviews, but different guests. I would like for people to come on and talk about their books and talk about their music and talk about their podcasts and talk about whatever the fuck they want to talk about, but not where they are just somebody on the show and we're talking about the crazy stories and they're getting involved in the conversation, and then we give them a spot. All right, talk about your shit.
Right.
What made you think of it? What got you into it?
Right. I know somebody who's played shows around the world in the music business, and I know another woman who is into voiceover, and she actually did a cartoon, although it's not her main job. But I might have a couple people that I can say, hey, here's the show. If you want to come on sometime and chat about what your journey was, we'd be more than happy to have you, and see if they're okay with their brand being put on our show. That's one of the things we have to make sure of.
Well, I'm very okay. So how we had the toxic masculinity show a couple weeks ago. There was when I posted that originally on Facebook and on the pages, it was Scotty's face. It was Scotty's face. It was a picture of Scotty that said toxic masculinity over the top of it. So I put that up and I was like, no, I can't have that. Now, if it was a picture of me, I probably would have left it. But I was like, no, Scotty, no, that's not going to be well for him.
I wouldn't have even thought of it. I'm like me, and that's the show, and they're not; those two are not related.
Right, but that's not how the rest of the world would have seen
it. Good catch.
Right, if that would have been the sign, and Scotty would have been blowing off the fucking fence.
So I'm getting hate mail. I'm like, me? Toxic man? What the fuck are you talking about?
Yep, he would be the face of toxic masculinity. So I had to change
mugs and shit.
So I changed it to the show logo.
Right.
Because I'm very conscious of people not coming on our show and fucking up their shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it has to be something that's worth it. It has to be worthwhile to them. We talked about this before, but if you're what's the difference between the 1% and the 99%?
Money.
Well, yeah, but the 1% figured out a way to say this is what's in it for you.
Right. And that's actually the position I'm coming from, because I'm not looking at, I'd love to have that person on there. They'd make our show look great. I'm thinking is this something that person was going to want to do to help them, or do they think it's going to hinder them?
Right. And that's the thing but that's why you have to that's why it has to be people that can hang on our show and do the type of and sit here and talk about this type of stuff, because if it's the type of person that gets offended by things or is so serious that they get the stink eye to us because we're acting like jackasses. I mean, it's what we do.
Yeah.
Then it's not going to mesh. It's not going to work. They wouldn't get with our audience wouldn't like them, and they wouldn't. And it's just not going to. You can't do that. So it is important to know who you're selling to, so you can get that same type of person on the show, and then you work together. Your audience members actually might read their stuff. Vice versa, their audience members might actually watch your show because it's the same kind of appeal.
Right.
So you have to narrow that in, but you have to have numbers. There has to be a reason. If you're having 12 views, nobody's going to come on your show. Why are they going to waste their time?
Right.
If you have 1,000 views, they might. If you have 10,000 views, they're gonna.
Yeah. In that case, especially when you get into the high numbers, in that case, then it becomes less about is your content okay with their brand, and more so, well, there's 100,000 people that are watching it, so that's less relevant. You got to make sure it's not diametrically opposed, but certainly, on the lower end, it's super important. But
and even then, diametrically opposed could work too, because in today's day and age, you got 100,000 people that can't stand you. They're going to start talking about you, so that you'll find enough people that defend you to make it worth your while.
Right, like if AOC had Trump as a guest.
Right. Holy shit. That'd be
Oh,
awesome.
man.
God
They'd
damn.
be printing money, dude.
Yeah,
In
it's
both
true.
homes.
Everybody would be watching it, right? So like, but that's one of the things. And all right, so that we'll get into that. But like, so all right, so yeah, we'll see about trying to get people on, but we have to have a reason for them to come onto the show, and that'll be a good spice. It'll get new audience members for us, new audience members for them. And I do want to definitely get back into the fun stories because it's there's a bunch. One thing we have to get away from though. We tell our best jokes to each other on the Instagram instead of waiting for it on the show.
Well, but the thing is, though, it's all organic. So it's not like I can save it.
It's true, though. You won't even think about it by the time it comes up. Unless you're sitting there with a notebook to write down your jokes. And then it's going to be forced when you do
it. Oh, and then such and such and such and such. Huh.
Yep.
If they don't have the flow from the rest of how it came
about.
Yeah.
We're not actors, so it's going to come off disingenuous.
Sure.
It's definitely going to sound like bullshit.
Right. Second time, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So, talking about having people come onto our show and talk about their shit. Personal projects. One of the things that I want to do is, because it wasn't, again, part of it is shooting the shit with your friends, but part of that is like goal setting, like what do you want to do? What is your personal projects? Like, what do you see moving forward with your own personal stuff that you're trying to accomplish by show 100? Where do you think you'll be with what kind of projects are you working on? Where do you think, how far do you think you can get with that?
As it relates to the show?
As it relates to everything, not just the show, but your side projects away from the show. Or your creative activities, if you will. Because part of it is I want to be able to look at this as writing our lists, as holding ourselves accountable to making sure that we are doing what is necessary to get that done. That's part of the arm of the show of why we're doing it.
Well, why don't you go first, John?
Well, for me, all right, so I got a lot going on. One of the reason why I didn't finish getting those transcripts together to put out the book of the original funny books is because I started going back to school. So, because my job right now, I give speeches to hundreds of people, right? And then they come in for counseling, and I teach them some shit about loans and financial stuff that half these fucking people don't know. You'd be amazed. It's disturbing how little most people know about money. They don't know how it's generated. They literally know nothing about money. They don't know how to save it. They don't know how to make it work. They don't know how to make money. They don't know how it works in the government. They don't know how it's created, how it flows. They know nothing about money. I don't know.
It should be a high school course.
It really should be. It absolutely should be. And what I think, I think it should be, if you're going to any college, undergraduate should be a prerequisite that you have to have it to graduate from undergraduate. You have to have a personal finance course and taxation and how revenue is generated through taxes, like a basic economics course. You'd be amazed how little, because I don't know shit about it, and I know so much more than everybody else. It's disgusting, but I digress. What it's done though is I get used to giving these speeches to big rooms of people and them engaging with them enough that they come in to see me for interviews. And I do a lot more counseling of just financial stuff. I do the life coaching stuff that I've been trained to do. Now, Walt has been trained with a lot of that stuff. Walt actually turned me on to a lot of that stuff. I'm doing so well in my class that my teachers continuously told me so, to the point where basically I can do it right now. Walt knows all the same shit that I know. And it's literally a matter of not having a method, just going in there, knowing how to ask the right questions and how to listen for the right things. So one of the things I'm going to be doing is, and because the way that they get you to come in, the way you go and get clients is you give speeches in front of whole rooms of people, and you get them jazzed up, and they realize that you know how people work, and you can get them in front of you and help them figure out, so you work through their problems. It's something that I know that I can do right now. It's in my skill set right now. And in the next 50 episodes of what we're doing, that's going to, I think that's going to work out. That's I'm going to be able to set up a business. And actually, Walt, I think that we could actually work on something where you could actually do add that to your repertoire at where you are, because you know enough to do it right now too.
Yeah. I mean,
See now,
to do that.
as far as this, like I said, I have a lot going on, so I have a lot to say in this particular question. Right?
It's a good one then.
I put together the people on this show for specific reasons. Scotty, Thaddeus, Walt. Walt and I have done the live coaching stuff, and that's plays to one part of my personality. Scotty and I we have our publishing company together. We have our book series together. We're writing together, and we have a lot going on with that. And Thaddeus has done tons of podcasts. He's got a ton of experience, and I figure the podcast with him would be he, you know, when he's on, he adds a lot to the show. You know, the comedy, you know, does a lot of different things. He, you know, adds a lot to the show as far as personality goes. And he's a pro. He does, you know, he's done this a lot. Now, the way I approach the world and the way I think about things is important, and like the conspiracy theories and stuff like that. And then the writing arm of it and writing all that stuff, that's how I cut the ideas to put into the stories, and Scotty and I working on those ideas together, and then the podcast to advertise them and sell them. You know, those three things, they all go together, right? I made Scotty a promise that if we're still doing this show, by the time we get our 10th book, you have to, you know, not 86% of books fail, which means you need to get that 10th book. If you get 10 books, you're going to have one that sells, you know? If we're still doing the show when we have this 10th book, we're going to actually, things are going to be taken off. I think that we can get there in 2 books, because I've had people reading The Beer Whisperer, and we did exactly what we set out to do in that book. For getting the feedback that I'm hearing, it was exactly what we wanted to do, and people have responded to me. So it's quality stuff, just like the show is quality stuff.
Right.
It's just a matter of getting enough people to actually engage in it. And they would.
I know the one before was like sort of almost like our beta of trying to do it, and then I remember like really mapping out for the Beer Whisperer. Like we had a much better direction for that. Like the first like collection book that we did was really. I think I only put one story in that one. It was just like you put a whole bunch of random things in it.
You did, and those were stories that I wrote while I was teaching, just to teach people. And plus, Scotty and I and another buddy of ours, Theo, used to have these writing contests where we just write stories.
Yeah, oh, I remember those.
Yeah. But that second book, we just wanted to see how the online publishing format would work,
right?
Because we didn't have the first one. We didn't have the first one. VPI we didn't have as a ebook.
That's true. It was just only in print.
Only in print. That came out after in the ebook. But this one, The Beer Whisperer, it has all these stories that are separate stories, but they're all connected in a sense. If we do 2 more, same way, 8 stories, 10 stories, they're all different stories, like, you know, and they advance certain characters, but they also link up to the other stories that are in the book. And 2 more stories, if we do it the right way, we can have a robust world where anybody can jump in and say, wow, that's something there, where they're going to want to hear more about the characters, but where they already know certain characters.
Right. Yeah. Especially if you're in like the 4th one and you've made a reference to the first one, and it could even be sort of obscure and like your real. And I mean this because I refer to myself as a geek, and like, you know, your geek readers, those are the guys you're looking for. They're going to get that, and it's going to be a really positive reaction to it.
Right. Exactly. They'll put it all together. If they've read all of them, they're going to put them all together, and they're going to know all of it. They're looking for that kind of thing.
Right.
So I do believe that, because we already did it. We just got to get in front of people, and we got to do, I think, 2 more. So that's so for me, I'm looking at getting some counseling in and coaching people up, but also because that's going to help me change my my view and give me ideas and stuff like that, and change how my perspective on things, which is always helpful. Getting those books written and getting some planned, at least getting one in the next year out, getting a book, at least one out in the next year, and then and the podcast, getting people onto the show and building up the numbers and getting people on the show. The thing that's well, I'll get into that a little bit. I'll get into the more of that what are your ideas? Because on my next question, what are your ideas though? What do you want? What do you have going on that you want to do?
For me, I now that nowadays social media is a big thing. I'm you know, you guys know I'm a musician, and I play out. I'd like to transfer a lot of that of what I do onto social media and have that be kind of a thing now. And all of that is in the works right now. But I've also got um, a collection of songs that that I've done over like a long period of time, and that's going to be like an official release, and it's songs from like that I played in my 20s, that I wrote in my 20s, and a couple that I wrote in my 30s, and and just I never put them out for one reason or another. I never put them out, and they all kind of they all kind of mesh well together, even though they're kind of different. The way I sounded when I was in my 20s is a little different from how I sounded later on and how I sound now. And so it's different, but it's kind of like a nice little amalgamation of different sounds.
I get that because it's the same thing I explained to everybody. Scotty knows this about VPI. I started writing it when I was 19. I finished it. I was like 31, and it's like there's and it's separated book 1, book 2, book 3, and I was a completely different person in each section.
Right.
So now I have a hard time writing like the Vega Pellegrino stories. I had to really put myself back in there to do it. It's not always the easiest thing because you are a different person. So I get that. I also can't wait to hear that shit, man.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah,
Yeah, it won't even be just an amalgam, but it'll be sort of like a history of you, like music, like your history.
It's almost like a greatest hits.
Yeah.
In a way, it's like, but John, you actually heard a couple of those songs because I know I've played them for you. I played a lot of the earlier ones. So I'm excited to do that. I've got like a website that I'm trying to construct, and I think a while back you were talking about Wix.
Yeah,
it's funny because I'm also using Wix for that.
Good.
And and it's just about doing that and just becoming like a, before I was like there was no reason for me to be on Facebook other than to catch up with some old friends that I hadn't seen in a long time. And if it wasn't for that, I never would have been on Facebook because I was never kind of like a social media guy. And now I'm, the only thing that's social media about me is the musical aspect of my personality. That's the only thing that's even remotely outgoing in that sense, So
spoken like a true artist. This is who I am.
Exactly. Everything else is kind of reserved. I'm a very reserved guy.
Yeah.
But when it comes to music, I wanna share that, and I do get to play out. But I think this is like another avenue for me to do. And then I'm also glad I'm doing this with you guys because it's gets me used to doing that every week. So
that's a really good point. Like this show, regardless of the different directions that we go, every time we do it, every week, it reminds me that I want to create something.
Right.
Yeah, it was part of the point of it all to keep us going, like because you get in your ruts and you get creatively where you aren't creating, and it's easy to get depressed, so it's good to have some times where you're bullshitting with your friends.
Right.
But me, this was always what gave me my ideas for what I was going to write anyway. When I was fucking around with my friends and some crazy shit happened, or where we had some crazy conversation about people putting into a transformer, they're actually getting killed, and that would give me the ideas for the stories. So it's in that sense, it's definitely like it's therapeutic, it's brainstorming, it's all that. That's great. Scotty, what are you looking to do? What are you looking?
So one of the things that I've been struggling with is actually having sort of my online presence and not knowing how to get that going. Like technically I've got all the stuff. I've got web hosting that's unlimited, and I've got tools for doing blogs and tools for building websites, but actually putting it all together, like my actual author, the writer presence that I want to portray as like who I am as a writer, That's one of the things I'd like to accomplish. Aside from writing more, I definitely need to write more, because I mean, Lord knows we've had some ruts between like the kids and just having a shitty year sometimes, like where the entire year is just blown away from like unemployment and cancer and all that kind of crap. So just writing more and like going out there and like creating content that can be put out there. I need to figure that part out, but that's the big thing I want to do, is like have a more active online presence. That way it can more tie into like this show and like everything else we want to do. It's just sort of like having a force multiplier. It just adds, it makes the other stuff work harder.
We're going to work on that. Don't worry. I have a plan.
Yeah, because you've done it. You've gone out there and you've had the blog where peacocks dare to fly and shit like that. I have not.
Yeah, that I'm gonna start a new one, but that one I've had probably 1 million hits on that site. But I was writing every single day though. I wrote. I was writing every single day, and like I put up a, which is insane. I wouldn't try to do that again. But I wrote every single day for 100 days.
I couldn't keep up actually. From a reader point of view,
the only part when I broke my arm and I was on medication is when I lost it, because I just got I couldn't keep in my head to write anymore. But it was I mean, I did a lot on that. So it is important. So this gets us into the next thing. That's good. Now, coming from the show standpoint, but this is going to work for other aspects of things. How do we take the next step? What should we do to grow the show and grow the audience? Here I need you to hear from you guys first before I speak, because I already have my ideas, but I want to hear what you guys have to say first.
Well, my first thought is it's got to be done in a way where you can get it in front of a particular audience and then have them want to share it. I know that's easily said, and that's probably part of what everybody's thinking anyway. But in reality, it comes down to you've got to have, I forget what they're called, these people with a lot of followers.
I don't know. Yeah.
They've got a name. I forget what they're called. But like somebody who already has sort of a presence that you somehow have to get somebody like that to notice it, to be able to, because there's only so much spending money to put it on random people will go. We've got to find a way to get ins on other content providers that are similar to what our readers and our viewers would be, sort of somehow draw them in. Now, they're not going to want to look at some, 15 subscribed or 100 subscribed or whatever it is show. What's in it for them? So that's sort of where that idea goes away. But I think that's one way we have to somehow get in with somebody who's big. Bigger.
Well,
I think the having the guests on that could help, because we could get exposed to the the initial audience that guest would have, so that helps. And then just knowing more. I think we're knowing more and more what our audience is, and that helps us to market to them, and and just keep putting out good content. Just keep putting out, keep striving to be better and funnier and more engaging, and that will kind of exponentially, what's the word I'm looking for? It's it'll compound on what we're doing already, and that, and just like Scott was saying, is just finding people that we can engage and have them say, hey, check these people out, like on, whether it's on Twitter or on Instagram or whatever it's going to be. Just say, hey, check these guys out. They're actually funny. They're actually cool. They're actually, whatever. And
you got to get that word of mouth, the buzz. Yeah,
word of mouth, exactly.
So, okay, I just finished working on the website. The website is completely updated. I've streamlined it for where it has our homepage, has our video section where you can look through all the videos. It has a podcast page where you can download all the audio, and the audio is phenomenal. I have a page for the books that Scotty and I write, where it has a brief description of the book, and you can click on it. We'll take you to the Amazon page for the Kindle book, right? And then I have another page just with cover art that I like to do. That we will pick one of our titles out of the cover art that I do, but I like to do it. And actually, Scotty, those are a couple of ways that are going to help you. One is to work on, think about using some, even though I think you said before that you're not so great with the photo editors.
Right.
Work on thinking of covers for us to do right as books and design covers similar to like what we do. Because it'll help you open up, because that's your web pages will look like that too. So, and that'll help you with the design of your other stuff. The thing is that you are a designer, right? You've designed, you're building web pages, right?
Well, I'm a programmer.
but you were talking about, you were telling me how you were working on doing some of that shit, right?
Oh yeah, I started, like, I took one of my, basically I have random websites that don't mean anything and I can just try to do stuff on them. So I actually started working on that to sort of emulate your web page in the format that I'm comfortable with using. Like, not a format, in the tool, to see if I could get like how stuff is structured together.
See, now, okay, so that's a good thing though. Work on, like as I'm doing stuff, see if you can do exactly that, because that'll give you the ideas of what to do on your, on the pages. Now, the reason why that's important is because, like, I have been, since we've been doing the show, I have been advertising and I've been doing different things and playing around. And it was a twofold thing. One, obviously, I am trying to grow the show a little bit, which it would happen for a while, but people engage only up to a point. Right. But then it's showed me clearly what our demographics are exactly. Okay, so I was poking and prodding specifically to check what these things are. Another thing is that I realized that you have to have an ad campaign that is targeted specifically towards those demographics. So I had to get the site up. I had to get the site where it was updated and presentable. And now I'm going to do an ad campaign for the podcast, for the audio part, and for the books.
So let me ask you about the podcast. Is that done strictly on SoundCloud, or is that done on a platform that actually pushes out updates when a new thing? Because like I have an app on my phone that I subscribe to podcasts, and it searches some podcast website. I forget what it's called. And then when this person puts the audio up, I'll get a little pop-up saying they just published a new.
I publish it on SoundCloud. SoundCloud does the same thing.
Okay.
I also, when I publish it on SoundCloud, it automatically publishes on our website. So I just had to publish to SoundCloud. It automatically publishes on the website. I'm hoping that when I publish this show to YouTube, it automatically publishes on the site also, which it should. Everything's all set up that way. That's when a lot of reasons why you use the what you see is what you get editors is because they have their apps that work with them. I want to set it up for iTunes, but I haven't gone ahead and done that yet, but I have to do that. But basically any of those platforms,
that's what it is.
Any of those platforms that we can get to set them up on, I want to.
Okay. Yeah, because like I just found the one it was called. It's like libsyn.com, and like that's just a platform for putting your stuff, and then different apps will draw from that as being a known source of podcasts.
And that's exactly what we need to find is those.
Okay.
And okay, so and that's another thing with you where you talk about your social presence. Use it for this show and looking for things like that where we can post it on that, and you'll also have it for your other side projects too, and already know how to do it because you're using the show to test it. So that's
we had talked about this, and I want to sort of reiterate it as well, so it can be part of this. Is that when we find something that we want to share, often we'll find something, and all we're doing, if we're paying to boost it, they're seeing it, yes, on our Facebook page, but it's taking them to that other site. If we can come up with content and do whatever we need to do to make it ours and not interfere with copyright, it should be posted on our website. And then our website link should be there. That when they go to our website, they're on our site, how it's branded with all of our headers and footers. So they can, these guys have books. Let me go click here and see that.
Well, and that is specifically why I'm doing the ad campaigns that are going to be the different kind, the ones that say that run across the top of your feed when you're looking at, and they show you like Walmart and Amazon and stuff like that.
Right, but not just those. I'm saying, like, if we do something where we share it on Facebook and boost it, whatever the content that we're sharing and boosted should be hosted on our webpage. So
Right.
when they click on it, they see whatever that meme or whatever that video or whatever that article is should be on our website.
A little harder to do with the video. I could do it from the audio right now. The video is a little harder.
Well, it depends on where it comes from. If it's YouTube, you can embed it on your website.
Right, and it slows everything down.
It shouldn't.
It just the reason, I don't know why it's doing it, but that's what's going on with this particular setup. How I have it.
Oh,
I've tested it. Yeah, so it just could be. It could possibly be because the editor, slows it down. I have no idea. The technical sides of it. I don't know shit. I'm an idiot. All I know is I drag it and drop it and it works.
right. Well, for those, we need to have a more than an N of 1 test, because maybe it's just slow for you.
Which is also possible. Which is why, though, and this is one of the things that, again, growing the show and making it better. Why, when I finished everything and I asked and I put it out there, we got into that whole conversation, that whole weird, crazy situation that happened the other day. Because I do need the feedback when I don't, I've set it up purposely where this is not my show. It's our show. I might be the lead because I'm doing all the technical stuff in the back, but, I'm trying to take burden off of everybody else, but it's our show. So I need to know exactly what you guys feel. I need to know where you want to go and how you want to do it.
Mm.
Now, we are a men's show. We are a show for men. Okay, this is what happened. Oh, maybe sometimes. I don't know. That could be. But again, through the prodding and everything, we're not a men's show because we exclude women. We're being like manly men. That's not what. Now, if we're a man show, it's because we talk about the things that dudes talk about the way that regular dudes talk about them, right? And if we're a man show, it's because based on the content of our shows, the men have been the ones that have been interested, and the women just aren't interested. We love the ladies. I would actually like to have a regular female on the show, but I think it would enhance the show in a sense.
Right, because we've had women in the garage. It was like 50-50 almost.
Right, exactly. I think it just helps, but it has to be the right person to fit. It has to fit what we do. So it can't just be forced, because otherwise it's going to ruin what we already have.
Yeah.
Right. But so if we're a man show, it's because that's who relate to us, and that's not a bad thing. When Walt and I were doing, those social dynamic experiments, which is the pickup artist stuff. This is the stuff why we had to get women to go home with you. We had more women asking us questions than dudes, because the women wanted to know how it worked and like why it worked and all that stuff. So, and a lot of things, like I have had women tell me about our particular show that it's like listening to a man cave conversation. And again, the demographics of the advertisement bears that out. But for anybody that is a regular person, like I like to think of us as a bunch of regular people hanging out at the bar, a bunch of regular people just hanging out, bullshit, shooting the shit. And that's definitely any woman that's interested in too. But there's a lot of women out there that don't actually know how guys think, or how guys act, or how guys interact with each other. And this is from Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. It's a classic book. And it's, and it says basically specifically this. We're very simple, very straightforward, and they do overcomplicate things. So because they have all this rationale for why they do things, and we're just very simple. We're problem solvers. Here it is. Fix the problem. There it is. And we're, so they overcomplicate things. It's good to see us in our natural environment and how we act and how we interact, so that they can, you know what? My husband isn't an asshole. They're all like this.
That's right. Right. He's not an asshole in particular.
Right. He's right. He's not any more of an asshole than the rest.
Right. He's not unique in his assholedness.
Right. And they show that she could realize, well, okay, my husband's an asshole, but fucking if I got rid of him and I went out there, the best I could do was the same thing. Look at these fucking assholes.
Right. Yeah.
And that's a good thing, but it's also important, like we were talking about before, to know who these people are, to know who is actually listening to us. So when we have used the limited funds that we have to market and to grow that audience, to target the people we already know are going to watch, because I can't afford to spend money on people that aren't going to pay attention anyway.
I used to be able
to. Even then, you still really couldn't, because the Pareto principle: 20% of your fucking work gets 80% of your results, and your job is to find which of the 20% is, because that means 80% of your work is getting 20% the other 20%, and you got to cut that shit out. Make somebody else do the 80% of the work that doesn't get you anything. That's what lackeys and interns are for.
Wait, you call me a lackey then, since I was like spending on the 80%?
No, well, my point is that we have to get the 20 together. We together have to get the 20% on whatever else the other shit is.
Right. We delegate the other.
Right. Yeah. And we got to put that together. We got to decide what that is, which is what you have to have an ad campaign. You have to like companies have mission statements, right? We have to have our mission statement. We have to have our direction where we want to go. Like for Scotty, for you and me, it's putting together these stories and building these stories, but we need this show to be able to tell people about them.
Right. Yeah.
Grow the audience for the show, and then you could grow the audience for the writing. You grow the audience for the writing, and they'll listen to the show, and you could grow both. And so it's you have to do both, but you have to do it targeted and know exactly, have an idea of exactly what you want to do, and that's where I need the feedback. But leads me to my last question, and then I have a challenge for you guys. So my last question is, how can I improve? What can I do better as a showrunner? What can I do better for you guys so that you feel more comfortable telling me to fuck off when I need to be told, whatever it is?
I mean, nothing. You do all the stuff that we either can or don't want to do.
Okay, but what about the show itself though? What am I what should I be doing better on the show then, if that's the case?
I don't know. The mustache is getting a little out of control.
Yeah, I've had to trim it.
I don't know, bro. To be honest with you, I've always felt like everything's cool with that. Like I know you can always do better on something, but it's just somebody who comes out here and does the stuff with you. I don't have any complaints at all.
Okay. Well, that's important feedback to know too, though. That's important to know. That means I can keep being the asshole I was born to be.
Right. You do that best.
That's what I do best. This guy's a fucking asshole. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. Well,
for me, I think it's just I think together we'll find things that'll make us better. It's the little things, So like in the beginning, it was maybe the pacing, the first couple episodes, and you saw how quickly we all gelled with that, and then we tried different things, and then certain things stuck. And I think we're just going to continue to kind of, not reinvent the wheel, but we're making modifications. We're making modifications to our this car we call a show. So I think it's just that. I think it's just we're gonna just slowly but surely just keep getting better and just keep looking to add things or take away things, or take away any excess that we have, or add, like we were saying with the guests and stuff like that. That can only be a good thing, So I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I like Scott, I haven't had any complaints about anything we've done. I think that we've tried things, and we know when we try it, we know after doing it for a few weeks, we know that, okay, this is working, this isn't working. Okay, so let's modify it a bit. Right. And we have to keep that mentality going, that mindset of it's out there, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, let's find out why it did, and discard it or try the next thing.
Yeah.
And, that's just basically it. Just keep. I think the Japanese called it kanai or something like that, constant and never-ending improvement.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point, because some people get really wrapped up on the mistakes that they've made, and I think that's one thing that all of us do fairly well, is that none of this is taken personally by anyone. And if somebody screws up, they're just like, okay, then next time I'm going to do something else. But it's not a fault. It's just like, that doesn't work. Let's do something differently. And for me, it used to be really hard. I used to take everything freaking personally until I met Theo and John. And then I couldn't be with those people and take anything personally, or I just wouldn't survive in that office.
No.
So it just,
ball breakers.
yeah. And then I came to realize, like, there's no real reason to it, because the next day we're out and going and having a beer, and the thing that I thought was huge was not. So we might screw something up on the show, but it's just one thing. We've got 50 shows now. If I messed up 10 minutes of dialogue in an episode at some point, in the grand scheme, it's really pretty insignificant. But I now know to do something a little bit better.
I look at things. There's three things that I think about when, like, piggybacking on what you're talking about there. The first is Anthony Robbins. There's no failure. There's only results. If you don't like the results you got, change your approach. So change what you're doing. Right. So there is no failures. We're just getting results. The second one is one of the biggest problems with creators in general, and with people failing to find success, is that you have to know when good is good enough, and and just put stuff out there. Like, people get they get paralysis by analysis, and they fucking want everything to be perfect, so they never release anything. And what good is okay, so even if you get that one masterpiece and it took you your whole life to fucking do it, you're dead by the time you're going to enjoy it. Right. So you got to get stuff out there and see how it works. Throw shit against the wall and see what sticks. And it's actually four things. One, but it's like 3A and 3B. Okay, so I set up the show. I tried to set up the show as much as possible, where it was minimal work for everybody, where it was, because everybody's busy and you have limited time and limited funding, so we could put something together with as little work as possible. Right. And I think it's allowed us to have flexibility to come in and out, because there were times where there was a bit before you got the house back, Scotty, when and Thaddeus had a similar spell to now. Where Walt and I were on the show every week, trying to carry the show every week, and you get tired. So it helps to have that different flexibility to move in and out. But I knew what we were facing going in. So with both this show and with our writing universe, within the MDPV universe, I have been fortunate enough that somehow I've always taken everything as a work in progress. The second book, just putting stuff out to see, how the formatting worked. And the third book, then trying the Pulp Fiction, the storyline. With this show, every week, just trying to put something out there, see how it worked, and try to do it better the next time, where it's always a work in progress. So you're never really failing. Every single time is just you learning something new on the job.
All right. And that's how any company has ever done anything with any of their products. You look at their product from beginning to the product now, it's been improved over years.
Right. And I want to make sure that, one, it has to be fun, it has to be enjoyable, it has to be interesting for people to listen to, or they're not going to listen to it. But, as I keep working on those parts of it, make sure you're actually delivering a quality product, and it's not shit. But I think that, we do have a good show. We do some good work. But we have to do more. And this is where if like Anthony Robbins will say this, and Jordan Peters will say this, every time you want to get it up to the next level, you have to sacrifice a little bit more to get to that next level. Every dragon you want to slay, every next dragon is a bigger dragon, or a bigger, stronger dragon. They're high up on the hierarchy. So you got to bring it a little bit more to kill that dragon. He's a little tougher, So there's certain things. I have some challenges for all of us. These are some challenges moving forward that will actually, Scotty, it'll help you stay on point for you, and Walt, because you're both in the same boat. You're both looking to build your social media presence, and you're both looking to even look at how to start targeting things and what to even produce and put out, in what ways to do it. Right. I've been going through this for a while, so I'm not an expert. I'm further along than you guys, because I've just been struggling through it a lot longer. Challenges for all of us to do moving forward. 1, share the show at least once a week. Not the same day that I do it, because it'll be on the page, but like a couple of days later, just hit the share button on your page. Share it to the people you know. Maybe you'll pick up a couple of people that'll watch it long enough to say, "Oh yeah, that was good." Okay, you think we think we could do that?
Yeah, I think I shared it once, and so to be honest, my concept of it is that the people that joined, and the ones that didn't weren't interested, and I wasn't going to spam the same people every week.
Well, okay, but what is, there's a lot of things. One, if the only friends that are going to see it are the people who happen to be online within 2 hours of the time you share it. Otherwise, they just won't see it. So most of the people won't see it, and then even then, some people might not know it's yours. They might see pictures of other people, but not you, and so they don't tune in. It might be a subject matter that they're not into, but the next time they see it, they're into that subject matter. And it's no different than sharing one of your memory pictures, because you're only doing it once a week. Once a week, whenever I put the post up, and like 2 or 3 days later, you hit the share button at some point during the day, like in the afternoon while you're at work, or in the afternoon while you're on that job out. Just hit the share button, because that will send. It's not just the people on the Mendoza page that like the page that might have a chance to see it, but it's the people that are on your friends, and the friends of your friends who don't who aren't on the page. But at the same time, though, too, there's some weird thing in the algorithm that when you're advertising it and it has more shares, people see it more. I don't know what it is, but you get a lot every time somebody shares. Your percentages of its reach goes through the roof. So it's important that we do it.
Yeah, their algorithm probably looks at like who's sharing it and then can like zone in to what the target is.
Right.
For how many also they do the impressions to.
They're probably also thinking that the more people share it, the more relevant news it is. So the more people want to see it. Yeah. If something has 50 shares, that means, this has 50 shares. Everyone wants to see it. So
no, that's 100% true. And I think they've even sort of stated that, like, the more, not just viewed, but like you said, the more it's engaged, which means views and shares and then reshares.
Engagement is the important.
Yeah, all that stuff tracks, because it's one thing to just share it amongst your friends, but it's another if it's then going on and on.
And that's where we're our posts, when it's all men, it's going onto women's pages, but it's all men that are liking it and sharing and making comments. So that's how you know that those are the people that are engaging with what you're doing, and those are the people you have to target, right? Another challenge: put one item up on the fan page at least once a week. I don't care if we split it up.
Wow, yep.
I don't care if we split it up where your day is Monday, my day is Wednesday. I don't care if we do it like that, right? But each of us should be at least once a week post something on the on the Mendoza page. I don't care what it is. If it's an article about music, if it's an article about comics, I don't care what it is. Something that article about science. If it's something nothing divisive though, nothing political, nothing that's going to piss people off. Sure. Okay. Because content, the more people see that logo, the more they're going to pay it. If it's stuff that they like, the more they're going to pay attention to the other stuff that you're doing.
Right.
Okay. So that's again, more content. It's you're putting the brand in front of people all the time. So that's an important thing. Okay. I don't think that's too hard, right?
Nope.
I think we can start doing that, right?
Yeah. I mean, at least me, I've done it in the past. I got out of habit with it.
Share the show once a week. Share it. Put one post up every week. Okay. Now here's where we get interesting. Start a blog, and at least once a month post.
What kind of blog?
It doesn't matter. It could be whatever you're thinking about. Now you don't want it to be political, but it could be whatever.
My conservative liberal blog that I created and never really worked with, but
yeah, you don't want for the purposes of this. You don't want it to be. It could be your thoughts on some TV show. It could be whatever, it could be whatever the fuck you want it to be on, and it doesn't even have to be long. It only has to be like 3 paragraphs. You're basically putting content up there that gives people a little bit of a glimpse of who you are. Because it's not about Stephen King didn't sell books when he wasn't writing as Stephen King. Richard Bachman books didn't sell until it was Richard Bachman writing as Stephen King. Now, your books, you're selling your personality here. Make no mistake.
Oh no, I'm in trouble.
So we're doing these blogs as ourselves, or are we doing it as the Med?
The blog is yourself. The blog is yourself. You want them to know your personality because it gives them one more avenue to know. If people read your blog and they like your thoughts, they're much more likely to read to pick up your album and listen to your songs.
True.
And vice versa. but it's also one more thing of content. So if we did it like each of us did a different week, so that every single week another blog post is going up, but you're still only doing it once a month. Now you're adding content and you're adding your own stuff on there.
Makes sense.
And then, of course, you do guest blogs. Like one day I write on Scotty's and Scotty writes on Walt's and Walt writes on mine.
And so when we do this post, should that then get shared, I guess, to the TMC page or?
Yeah, I would. I mean, you don't have to.
Otherwise, the link doesn't mean anything. Just doing that blog, nobody's going to see it.
Well, no. Well, what I'm talking about the Mendoza page, because the Mendoza page has more fans on it, like a considerable.
That's what I mean. Like the only way. So you're not saying have our own website. We're talking about do a personal post on.
Have set up. You could set up a blog on any site that you could do. Go on Blogspot. Mine is on Blogspot. Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever site. Yeah. Whatever site you want to use at your own site. Why wouldn't you use your own site if you could set it up that way? Do it. But you're going to share it to the Mendoza page once a month.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. So the Mendoza page just has a lot more. Like I'm advertising through.
Right.
Mendoza.
It's already got the base. We want to straight
exactly
from there. Yeah. I totally
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the way that I'm, like Thaddeus is the TMC side. I mean, Scotty and I, or at least, is the Mendoza Presents, and I really include Walt in that because he's done everything with me anyway. So,
start writing.
He's like if we were to think of Mendoza Presents as a magazine, he's the music side of the magazine. So,
sounds good.
And the thing is though, is that by doing that, if he helps us build up the brand, when he drops his albums, he's gonna have a people that are he's already doing that stuff. The album itself will be his solo thing, but he could sell it to the audience that he's been a big part of building up.
True.
And that's the whole thing. You're built, and that was the part of the point of the show, and that's the point of this is to build up the audience for one. And by extension, you're building up your own, because like all of our fans will like my fans are going to like you guys. You guys, your fans are like me.
Dude,
because we're all part of the same thing.
John, before I forget, Walt needs to be a character in the book as a musical artist, as himself, and he can be tied in that way.
Yeah, we can do that.
We'll make a reference in the book about such and such a song, and then people will find out that's a real fucking song.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good thing. That's good. That's awesome.
I'll send you some of my stuff so you'll know what I'm all about.
And now this is the hardest one now. This is the hardest one. This is the real challenge.
Oh, so the blog is the hardest one?
No, the blog's not the hardest one. I'm thinking this is within the next 6 months, though. This is a long-term one. Go through the videos, go through our podcasts, right? And put together your own personal favorite greatest hits. Doesn't have to be more than 5 minutes. And I'm not saying of you personally. I'm saying of the clips that you liked. So it could be us talking about your favorite, like 2 or 3 of your favorite topics. And all you have to do is tell me it's this episode from this timestamp to this timestamp. And I'll go and edit it.
You said 5 minutes?
So like if you got the cock mine and then you got like 2 other things.
No problem.
You know what I mean?
Starting to sound like work, John.
Well, okay.
We got into this business to avoid work now.
Yeah. Actually, no. Like, everything I've ever read about anything is like when you try and do this crap, it's more work than you've ever done in your life.
But these, the thing is that all of these things that I'm telling you to do, right? It is the stuff that you're going to have to do individually to sell your stuff anyway.
Sure, yeah.
You have to do this. It's like you were talking about your social media presence. You were both talking about your social media presence. This is exactly what it is. The difference is that instead of each of us having to do all of this every week,
right,
all by ourselves, we're splitting up the work between us.
I like it.
All right.
Yeah. So that's the challenge. And that's our next step to do. And with that, it's 12:15. I think number 50 is in the books.
All right. So
final thoughts, fellas?
We're going to share it. We're going to write it, and we're going to post it, and we're going to make it.
Yeah, and you guys should probably start listening to the shows too while you drive around the car, so you actually know what we were how good they were and what the fuck we were talking.
You know, if it came up in my podcast app, you know, it'd be so much easier.
I should find out the links for that, and we can work on that.
I actually do listen in the car. Actually,
yeah, so do I. I actually canceled my XM radio because I was doing more of like that kind of listening than anything else.
Yeah, that's all I do. I listen to our show and I listen to YouTube, and that's it.
Right.
Anyway, well, folks, check us out on YouTube and on SoundCloud. Mad Search. Check out our books on Amazon. The Mad Presents ebooks, real fun. Yeah, keep your mind off of bullshit. And Walt, anything you want to sell?
I just want to say happy 5-0, and there's some music to come.
All right. Well, good night, folks.
Night.